What's good, y'all? This is another edition of Godspeed Audio. I'm your host, Adi Yahich, and it's been a couple weeks since we've last seen each other. I've been busy, but new music has still been coming out, so I'm still here to give you the taste of some of it. There's a really great Ice Age album that came out last week. But I'm gonna wait on that one for you guys so I can get a couple of my friends up in here doing it with me. Some of my friends really love Ice Age. So instead, another great album that came out yesterday, and I've been really highly anticipating for a long time, is 7 by Beach House. You just heard one song off of it called Dive. That was one of my favorite songs off the album. And Beach House has been around for a while. They released their self-titled in 2006, and then Devotion in 2008, then followed by Teen Dream, Bloom, and Depression Cherry, which really was a big moment for them. That's when a lot of people kind of started listening to them and kind of got a more like hipster audience. And then Thank Your Lucky Stars came out in 2015 as well, and followed by their B-sides and rarities last year. And then finally this year, just 2 days ago, not even 2 days ago, like less than 24 hours ago, they released their album 7, and it is definitely my favorite of their albums, and it's a direction that's new for them, and I'm all for it. I'm a big fan of what they're doing, the music that they've been releasing lately. They started with their song Lemon Glow, which came out a couple months ago, followed by Dive, the song I just played for you. And right when they came out, I really loved where they were going with it. There was a lot more noise, a lot more action before, like songs like On Depression Cherry, which is an album I still loved. They're really a lot slower, more melodic, using that kind of interesting vocal choice that they had, and mainly writing with the instrumentals slower in the background and more faded. Here there's a lot more noise, a lot more shoegaze that they've been teasing for a while, and I'm glad that it came to fruition. I really love all these songs, especially this next one, Lose Your Smile. Here we go. I really love that song, and I think this one takes more influence from their older work than the rest of this album, I guess. But even still, there's more going on this record. On this song itself, there's stronger drum beats. I like that reoccurring, I guess, melody in the back with that synthesizer. That I really appreciate that addition to it, and that's something I don't think they would have thought to add on their last record. They actually switched up who was like their main producer on this record from the previous ones, going with Peter Kember, who also goes by Sonic Boom. He's also produced a lot of work for MGMT, which is another band that I really like, but I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them, I guess. But there's nothing in my mind at all to dislike about this record. Maybe it's not yours, but I think that it's fantastic from start to finish. That song, what I like about that song and about the record is that they don't lose some of the emotional context, I guess, in that aspect of it, even though they're adding more, like, I guess, music, more active music. Like, sometimes people think that by adding more interesting and more active music in your album, in your song, you're going to lose some of that emotional, relaxational aspect of it. But I think simply just the vocals that they keep throughout that song and the rest of their music is able to withhold that, and they don't compromise anything for, in my opinion, a more interesting album, which is why this is my favorite album by them. So and I'm really excited for what's next. Um, and I like the confidence that they approach this album with, which is something I don't think that they have as much of in their earlier work, such as the song "Girl of the Year." That song to me is really interesting. Um, I love their take on it. It's almost like their music is typically described and characterized as like a daydream, and I feel like that's very obvious of why it would be described as that. But I think on this one it's interesting because it's almost designed to be like one, how it jumps around from place to place as if you're dreaming, but also in the end how it just cuts off abruptly. I feel like that's something that they kind of had more happen more often in their music on this album. Something that wouldn't have been expected previously. Their music seemed to flow really smoothly on their last albums, and that's kind of what made it seem that get that daydream sort of feel, how it was just like slow and consistent. And what they did well about it was that even though it was those, it wasn't boring. But this one, there's no way that this album, in my opinion at least, can be described as boring, just because there's a lot more musically that's just going on from the bottom up. And with this album, what I really appreciate about it is its musical integrity, but also the band's musical integrity, but also how they're moving in direction. That's important, because sometimes it gets boring when a band releases the same sort of music with the same sort of vibes and feels for a long time. So I appreciate that they're, trying to be creative, but still not moving away from, or still not, I guess, disappointing their fans, because this is still unequivocally a beach house album, but it's still different than what they were doing before. So I like how they had different ideas on this one. This album tells me that they're not out of ideas, that they still have a ton of ideas and a ton to contribute to the music community moving forward. This is Beach House is made up of just two. It's a man and a woman who make this music together. Usually it's the female vocals that you hear, and they've been working on it for quite a while. Their names are Victoria Legrand and Alex Scally, or Scully. I apologize if I pronounced the name wrong, but it's just the two of them. So sometimes that can lead to a shortage of ideas, but also what it can do is can lead to more cohesive ideas, since you have less opinions, less distractions, I guess. So I think that they've been doing a good job of not withholding their creative outlook and their creative ideas in order to hold to a specific sound. I think that's something that's really overrated in the music community, is like holding to a sound, like, oh, this is their sound. And I understand to a point that is like basically being respectful to your fans, but also I think that it can lead to becoming sort of monotone and monochromatic. Let's look at Childish Gambino, someone who I'm going to talk about later in this album and later in this radio show. He released his album Awaken My Love just last year, and it was completely different than what anyone expected. And here he's coming with new music that's rap again. He's going from this soulful, from rap to neo soul to back to rap. So he's moving around, but people still enjoy it because he is having good ideas. I think when people don't like a record that's different than before, is because they don't like the idea, and that's going to happen. But I think that with this album, it's still a great. They showed they have great ideas all over this album, and I was all for it right when I heard the first track that they released. I listened to it the day it came out, Lemon Glow by Beach House, and I still think this is the best song off the album, and probably one of the favorite singles that they've ever released. So here's Lemon Glow by Beach House. Enjoy. You're listening to Godspeed Audio. My name is Adi Yahich. Glad to have you back from that quick break. And right before the break, I played for you guys Lemon Glow. And I think you guys can see why I was such a big fan of that song when it came out. I was so excited when that song came out because it's just so sonically interesting. There's so much going on. It's just it's so much fun to listen to. And I think that's something that wasn't necessarily a term that you describe Beach House's music before, but that one's such a fun listen. But one thing that Beach House really tries to accomplish with their music is they're not trying to make perfect sense lyrically, if that makes any sense. They're trying to portray and convey emotions musically. And their goal isn't for you to understand them analytically, but emotionally. Their goal is to make you feel the emotions that they're feeling, but also to understand more about yourself if you allow yourself to feel those emotions. That's something that is their goal when they're making these albums. And I think this one does that just as well as anything that they've been doing before. It's just a little different. It's a little different emotion that they're getting across. It's a little different method of translating it. It's more of an active feeling. It's a more of a sometimes anxious, sometimes excited feeling. Before it was just a somber, melodic feeling. Now it's a more exciting and sometimes even anxious feeling. That's what I like about it. I like that their goal hasn't changed, but the way that they're portraying it, the way that they're conveying it has changed, because that's what happens when you age. Things change, and I like that they're changing, in my opinion, not necessarily for the better. I'm not trying to say this is a better way of making music than in the past, but they're changing, but they're still keeping high quality, really good music. That's what I appreciate. That's what I appreciate about that album, 7 by Beach House. Definitely recommend you listen to it. And, buy the music because help our artists out, especially ones like those that are not necessarily the biggest. But speaking of big artists, here's something that has been on the news consistently lately. I think everybody's talking about this song, this music video, and just what this guy has done over time. Donald Glover released his music video for This Is America, a song that I think is extremely important. So I'm going to play for you guys. I'm going to spend some time talking about the song itself and talking about the video and the SNL performance that he did 2 days before releasing the video. I think the video is great. The song I'm still warming up to itself, but I think the message he's trying to get across is such a great message. Let's listen to it. Here's This Is America by Childish Gambino. So I hope you guys all enjoyed that listening experience. And wow, that song is powerful. Just lyrically, I can just read you some lines that just struck me. Like the last line, the song in the outro by Young Thug, you just a barcode, you just a black man in this world. That's just one line that stuck out to me. And then just this he's really touching upon this weird juxtaposition between like pop culture now and like African American roots culture, and just this weird juxtaposition. I thought that was really interesting to me. If you look at the music video, he starts out with this African American man playing guitar, and then it goes to a shot of him shirtless, wearing these pants that are similar to pants of during the times of slavery, and he's shirtless, almost like trying to show off his physical features, much like slavery auctions in the past. And he does the same thing on the SNL live performance, where he's standing there with his arms behind his back, almost implying that they're tied, and he's shirtless, doing the same sort of thing. But then he goes in the music video, and he stands right behind this man, pulls out a gun, and shoots him, and he's shooting him in a stance that's similar to that of a Jim Crow time. I believe it was like a drawing of a African American man. It was like a really negative depiction of one, and he was there, and he's standing in that pose when he shoots him, and then he takes the gun and he sets it down almost respectfully, as in like he's praising the gun onto this red cloth. And I think that there's so much that's said by that, and this just continues later in the music video. In the background, there's a man depicted as death on a white horse, and he goes across, and he's followed by cop cars, and that is like an allusion to the Bible, where he says that death will be riding on a white horse and followed by hell. So you can just imagine what he's saying there. And then there's this juxtaposition with the pop culture and old cultures in the dance music. How the dancing they go from these really tribal dances, or like dances that seem influenced by tribal dances, to like pop culture, like fad dances, like different really popular dances now, and like this like weird transition between them. And then he's talking about like all this, like the type of stuff that is talked about now, a lot of music, like I'm on Gucci, I'm so pretty, I'm so fitted, all this stuff that is like talked about a lot, like, and getting your money. That's something that he talks about a lot, like get your money. And to me, that means a lot more than just like, you know, go ahead and get your money. He's talking about stuff like almost like reparations from the past, and just the fact that get your money is such like such an important thing in pop culture. Just this like weird transition of time that we've gone through, but also just the fact that like a lot of artists now, like we're in a weird place where artists have a lot of verbal power, and it's interesting. A lot of artists decide to just get their money and be quiet, and a lot of try to use their platform. It's almost this weird take. He has a really interesting take on that, which is something that I thought was interesting about this music. And there's just so much more that goes into it. I really recommend that you listen to the music video. I think it's probably one of the best music videos of all time. Definitely one of the most powerful of all time. There's another time where there's a choir of African American men singing the chorus, the poppy tune chorus that it starts with, and then just like in the beginning, and then he takes a rifle and shoots them, and it's obviously a reference to the murders in Charleston just last year. And then again, he takes the gun and puts it away almost like very carefully, almost like showing how lots of people praise like guns, almost like protecting the guns. And he puts it away again on a red cloth that can symbolize the death, the blood, and, you know, like perhaps even the color red, how it's related to republicanism, I guess. And I think that's obviously he has a lot to say, and I definitely recommend you watch it and form your own opinion on it. Don't just listen to what I'm saying. But this is definitely a song that I think is going to be talked about and should be talked about for a long time. I'm excited to see where he goes with the rest of the album, because this is definitely a standout song. I wouldn't even be surprised if this song isn't on the album. But we'll see where he goes with it. There's a lot of features on this, including Young Thug, Slim Jim from Ray Shremmer's fame, Quavo from the Migos, and 21 Savage. And I think they all come together and make a really good song musically. A lot of interesting stuff to it, but definitely I like to listen to most things separately from the music videos, but I think this is definitely one where they're meant to go together. These two songs the music video is definitely something that plays an important role in understanding and truly getting the full grasp of this song. So I definitely recommend you listen to that. I want to spend some time talking about that song, because I feel like it's important. I feel like what I like about music is its ability to make people feel things. And I think that this song, what it does well is it makes you feel a certain type of way, but it also is in itself a call to action, and it's something that needs to be talked about. And I'm glad that lots of people are. I appreciate that people on Twitter are talking about it. And if you have anything else to say, let me know. You know where to find me on Twitter at AudiYahich, or on my YouTube account at Godspeed, and on Instagram as well. So yeah, I think that's something that needs to be talked about, that should continue to be talked about, and I'm really excited for what's to come with Childish Gambino and Donald Glover. Yeah. So last thing we're going to talk about on this show is last night, or 2 nights ago, I was able to attend a concert with Julie Byrne and Vagabon. They were opened by this man named SK, who is playing West African tribal music, and I thought that was really interesting. It was almost like his own jazzy take on West African music. He was actually from Ghana himself, so I liked how it was great to listen to. It was over at the Bootleg Theater in Los Angeles, and that's a sort of new venue, but I liked it. Before you walk in, there's like kind of into the actual theater. This is like common area. People are playing ping pong and stuff, so don't be afraid to get there early. And but the concert itself was really great, and I'm gonna play you a couple of songs from those two people, just out of love and because I think they're great songs to listen to. The first person who played was Julie Byrne, and what's interesting about her is her voice is so soft, even when she's speaking normally. I thought that's something that was something she did for the music, but no, her voice was soft and soothing throughout the entire time, talking in between songs. It was beautiful. Her voice is beautiful, and I see now why her voice sounds so amazing in her songs. She kind of has a little bit of a country accent to her, but I think that she did an amazing job, and she carried the entire audience just with her and her acoustic, and her friend Jake, who's on the violin. So here's Natural Blue by Julie Byrne, one of my favorite songs by her. You can feel how soft that song is, from her vocals to the violin to the acoustic. I love that. I love that about her music. I love that it's just so soothing, and it's so nice to listen to. It's such a nice listen. It's such a fun listen. I feel like I can just listen to her music, and not necessarily fall asleep, but I feel comfortable when I listen to her music. I guess that's the best way for me to describe it. And she's just a comforting person. I met her after the show. Had a few words with her. And she just seems like such a happy, loving person. I love that about artists, especially artists that are like the type of people who like stay in the venue after the show. She was actually stayed there to listen to the next artist, Vagabon. And, I had to exchange a few words with her. She just seemed like a really nice person. And, she told me she's making some new music, but she's going to take her time. So I'm always okay with people taking their time, especially if it ends up with a good product. Next person who I met there was named Vagabon. And she was such an interesting person. I actually got to meet her before the show, before her set started. And she was just like a really interesting person. I was able to have a conversation with her, and she just seemed like a great person to be around. And I like that about artists, when they're genuinely nice people. She seemed like a really nice person. She actually loved. She was talking about how she really felt at home when she listened to the first set by SK, the West African inspired artist. And I love her music. Her album from last year was one of my favorite albums of the year. Actually, I had it in my top 10, and I think she's just so entertaining, so fun to listen to, and such a great lyricist, especially on this song, The Embers, which she told me she thought was too silly, and she was actually thinking about not releasing it, but I'm very glad she did, since it was one of my top songs of last year, and I still listen to it on a very consistent basis. Here is The Embers by Vagabond.
I feel so small.
That was such a great song to hear live. And, my name is Adi Eyes. That was Godspeed Audio. Have a great week. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the show. Last song, Fear For.
It.